Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening. Upon hearing her father's words, Aubrey felt her legs turn to jelly as she sat on the stairs. We've sacrificed so much for Pearson Group, only for him to give in this easily. Lucian doesn't want me anymore, and I can't secure Pearson Group. I have nothing now. As she was in a state of despair, all she felt was immense hatred toward Roxanne. If not for that batch, I wouldn't be like this now. The news of the Farwell family dissolving the marriage contract with the Pearson family spread like wildfire in the upper circle of Horrington. Once the marriage contract was terminated, Jack was aware of the situation. He did not understand why Lucian cancelled the contract, and he felt a little uneasy, so he had his assistant investigate the matter. The next morning, his assistant reported, Mr. Damaris, there's a rumor spreading among the public that Mr. Farwell's daughter is also Ms. Jarvis. Ms. Jarvis has only recently found out about this. I can't say for sure if this is the reason Ms. Jarvis' attitude toward Mr. Farwell has changed, but they have both grown closer with each other lately. When the assistant's words fell, Jack's expression darkened. So Estella is Lucian and Roxanne's daughter. It's no wonder I always heard how Estella fears everyone but seems close to Roxanne. Now I know why Lucian has never broken off contact with Roxanne. It turns out they have this sort of relationship. I've always known they were once married to each other, but not to the point of having a child. This just makes things difficult for me. Immense dissatisfaction filled Jack. Ever since he made acquaintance with Roxanne in the medical consultation and observed her phenomenal medical skills, he knew she was the best choice for him as a life partner. Yet, she already had a child with another man. He had always been interested in the medical field and had been seeking to make a breakthrough in this industry. To him, Roxanne was the first brilliant woman in the medical field, so he was inevitably attracted to her. He hoped that Roxanne bore the same ideas as him, to improve medically so they could go further in this field, as that was the only way he could think of that could bring them together. He believed as long as they got together, it would be of great benefit to each other. Because of that, he had endlessly made efforts to get close to Roxanne, hoping he could be together with her naturally. However, in the end, Roxanne still chose Lucian over him. Lucian. Him again. Why does he always meddle in everything I do? Out of anger, Jack swept everything on his table to the floor. He snatched Herbscape Group and Roxanne from me. Roxanne was totally unaware of the children's involvement in Aubrey's predicament. Upon waking up the following morning, she wasted no time browsing the discussion online. Lucian's announcement from the night before topped the trending topics. Above the other popular topics from the day before that lay below, forgotten. The search phrases of the posts were also almost completely deleted. Roxanne deemed the matter resolved and was finally appeased. She was getting out of bed to prepare breakfast for the children when Jack suddenly called. Roxanne picked up at once, thinking it pertained to the project. What happened, Mr. Damaris? She sounded apologetic, as she feared her being the subject of tabloid gossip would affect the project. Jack sounded concerned on the other end. Are you all right? I saw the comments online yesterday and considered dropping by, but I was swamped. Now that I have some time to spare, I'm calling to check if the comments have brought you down. Roxanne froze before a feeling of warmth engulfed her heart. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Damaris. I'm fine. Besides, the matter has been resolved. I'm just concerned it might affect our project. Jack laughed, seemingly unbothered. I'm just glad you're okay. I got the project handled, and nothing will happen. Thank you for all your hard work of late, Roxanne said gratefully. I'm well rested now and will return to work next week. No rush. I'm not calling you for that, Jack said, his tone mysterious. I thought you might be feeling down from the incident yesterday, so I called to ask if you'd like to have a day out to feel better. This offer sounds like a date. Frowning slightly, Roxanne rejected without hesitation. No, thank. Before she could finish speaking, Jack cut her off. Don't be so hasty to turn me down. Having a day out is the secondary reason for my asking. The first is that my grandfather wants me to take you to the Damaris family's medical consultation to teach you some of our family's medical arts while we're there. Since he had invoked Hector's name, Roxanne could not say no. Besides, she became tempted by the prospect of learning the Damaris family's secrets. There is a nursing home in Jadeborough. The person in charge disappeared with the funds and left behind many elderly people who needed help, plus some kind-hearted staff. Despite their best intentions to care for the elderly, there aren't enough funds. Some even starved to death, while others had a relapse. Jack spared no detail in describing the condition of the medical consultation to her. This is a mission with a lot at stake. The Damaris family is mobilizing every doctor from the project to Jadeborough next week to help treat the elderly. Grandpa recognizes your skill and left me repeated reminders to include you in this mission. Then, as if worried about making her uncomfortable, he added, "It'll take a little longer this time, so we will spend 2 days in Jadeborough. If you cannot spare the time, I won't force you. I understand you have your own children to care for." Roxanne would not turn him down at the chance to learn the Damaris family's medical arts and to aid elderly people who were critically in need of medical attention. All right, I will be there on time." Jack's eyes flashed with glee. Then I'll be there waiting for you." Roxanne promised to go without hesitation. After hanging up, Roxanne headed upstairs to summon the children to breakfast. Estella was still in her bedroom, sprawled on her bed in a deep sleep. Roxanne woke her and led her to wash up before knocking on Archie and Benny's bedroom door. Already up, the two boys were huddled together to read the comments online. Their respect for their father increased for how he had handled the incident when they saw that the posts had almost completely been deleted. "We'll see who else dares to slander Mommy after this." Upon hearing the knock on their door, the boys jumped and slammed the laptop shut before running to answer it. "You boys are awake. Come down and eat." Roxanne beamed with pride when she noticed her sons had already brushed their teeth. The boys nodded, shut the bedroom door behind them, and followed their mother down the stairs. "I'm going on a business trip for several days starting tomorrow. Linda will be over to babysit. Be good and do as she says, understood?" Roxanne brought up her trip to the children during their meal, causing them to suddenly lose appetite at those words. "You're going away, Mommy? Can we come along?" As their mother had been staying home with them instead of being at work this whole time, her sudden declaration of going away for several days saddened the children. Estella was most reluctant of all. "Let me come along, Mommy. I can't be without you." The child felt uncomfortable with the prospect of parting with her mother so soon. Roxanne gazed at Estella's uneasy expression and felt her heart ache. "I know how hard I'll be working once I arrive there, and I will not be able to give the children the attention they need. It's better for them to remain at home." Spurred by that thought, Roxanne turned her down firmly. "I'll be very busy with work, but you can call me if you miss me. I will always pick up." Still looking a little upset, Estella turned to face the two boys, hoping they would speak up for her. Archie and Benny gazed tenderly at their little sister, but they knew how busy their mother could be at work. When they lived abroad, she would be gone for 2 to 3 days at a time, but not before handing them over to Linda's care. "Be good, Essie. Miss Linda is fun and will take good care of us. Mommy will be back before you know it." Archie stroked Estella's arm. Estella puffed up her cheeks morosely before returning to her meal with her head bowed. Archie then turned to his mother. "What is your current business trip about, Mommy?" Not intending to keep things for them, Roxanne recounted Jack's conversation with her, while emphasizing the deplorable state the nursing home was in and that she would be too busy to pay them much mind. The children nodded obediently after being informed she would be working at the medical consultation. "Those poor elderly people. You must help them, Mommy. We will be here waiting patiently for your return." "I will await your return patiently too, Mommy." Estella chimed in. Roxanne was deeply moved by her children's thoughtfulness. Thank you. I will resolve matters as quickly as I can and hurry back to you." The children finished their meal obediently, occasionally giving her bits of morsel. The meal was a harmonious one. Roxanne intended to take the children out after breakfast, but Archie and Benny rejected her offer. "We're still tired from yesterday, Mommy, and would like to stay in today. Besides, Essie must want you to herself since you'll be leaving on your trip tomorrow." Estella did not know what the two older boys were planning, but she did want to spend time with her mother. "Let's stay in today, Mommy." She nodded without hesitation. Roxanne gave in to the children's request. Let me tidy up the kitchen first. You guys go ahead and play while I'm at it." Archie and Benny nodded, then led Estella up the stairs. The three children went straight for the bedroom, and as soon as they closed the door, Archie and Benny gave Estella a toy. "Archie and I are going to watch the stock market for a while. Play on our own for a while, all right?" With the patience and shrewdness of an adult, Benny cajoled his sister into obliging him. Estella grumbled when a doll was forced into her hands, but the two boys were already huddled together in a whispered discussion. Mommy mentioned she's going to the medical consultation. She must be going with Mr. Damaris. Worry was written all over Benny's face. Archie was similarly glum. But Mommy said she's going to help treat some old people. We can't stop her." Compared to their parents' relationship, the children held the well-being of the troubled elderly people in higher regard. Benny pulled a face at his brother's words. I know, but what happens if Mommy changes her mind while she's there? Mr. Damaris once sent Mommy flowers, for God's sake. The boys were worried that their mother would be moved from spending time with Jack and cast their father aside. Would we become fatherless children? Archie frowned and fell silent for a long time. It is true. Benny has a valid point. We can't let Mommy be alone with Mr. Damaris. We can't stop Mommy, but we can tell Daddy, Archie said solemnly after a long pause. Benny's eyes lit up. That's right. Daddy will think of something if we tell him. The children heaved a sigh of relief at that thought and took out their smartwatches to send their father a message. Archie, Benny, what are you guys talking about? I'm so bored. Cuddling the doll and looking aggrieved, Estella trudged over. Unsure if she was mistaken, Estella noticed that her brothers had been having hushed discussions without her since they discovered the truth of her birth. We used to talk about things together. How upsetting. A trace of guilt flashed across Benny's face. He gave her a mysterious grin and said, nothing. We were talking about the stock market. You're too young, so we left you out because we thought you would be bored listening to us." The boy had no choice but to tell his sister a lie while suppressing a powerful sense of disgust with himself. Gazing at Estella's innocent expression, Benny changed the subject immediately, afraid of succumbing to his guilt and revealing the truth. "I cannot tell Essie that her daddy is ours too, can I? She will tell Daddy without thinking twice, which will undoubtedly anger Mommy. The only thing we can do is discuss matters behind Essie's back." Estella nodded innocently in response to their explanation. "It is true that I know nothing about the stock market, and hearing about it would mean nothing to me anyway. Then finish up your discussion and come play with me," Estella whined. Benny gave Estella a guilty nod. As he watched her climb up the bed, he produced his watch to send his father a message. Meanwhile, Lucian was displeased after learning from Benny's message that Roxanne was going to the medical consultation again with Jack. "Though I can't bear to say anything to her, I'm even more unwilling to keep this to myself." After mulling the matter over, Lucian called Jonathan and blamed him for telling Roxanne about the medical consultation run by the Damaris family and for introducing Jack to her. Jonathan was deeply amused by his friend's accusations. Are you kidding me? I did that to help you appease your wife. She would have left the country if not for the Damaris family's project." Since learning about the Farwell family calling off the engagement with the Pearson family, Jonathan had practically treated Roxanne as his sister-in-law. Lucian was relieved by those words, and the hostility in his tone decreased. Anyway, you have somewhat played the matchmaker to their relationship. I'm now courting Roxanne, but she still insists on going with Jack. I can't say anything to her for fear of being accused of restricting her freedom. What do you think I should do now?" Jonathan froze for several seconds before regaining his composure. "You could have just said that you want my opinion." Lucian answered carelessly, Whatever. So, what do you have in mind?" As he did not have an answer just yet, Jonathan did not respond. "This is between them, and it's best if I don't interfere. Besides, my old tricks have been proven not to work. Lucian is the one who finally convinced Roxanne to say yes, but it's evident from the way he's speaking that he's upset." A second later, Jonathan asked tentatively, "You can't stop her from going, and you don't feel good about her spending time alone with Jack. Is that it?" Lucian hummed in response. Then why don't you go with her?" Jonathan suggested. She can't stop you from going if you decided to." Lucian remained silent for a long time. Having thought his friend was dissatisfied with the idea, Jonathan was about to suggest something else when he realized that he had already been hung up on. He heaved an aggrieved sigh. "When will those two finally end up together, so my days of being the middle person can come to an end?" Standing in the CEO's office at Farwell Group, Caden was looking blankly at his employer. "Are you sure you want to personally check the account in Jadeborough, Mr. Farwell?" Lucian gave an indifferent nod. Is there a problem?" Caden was filled with despair when his employer summoned him and stated his wish to inspect the account of one of their branches in Jadeborough. That task never involved Lucian himself, as only the presence of the CFO would be required. He could not imagine why his employer would make such a trip when there were many other urgent matters in the headquarters that required his attention. At the sight of Lucian's determination, however, he could not say much else. "One more thing, I will be there for a few days, so push everything on our itinerary back during this period," Lucian instructed without the slightest change in his expression. Caden could do nothing else but nod. Linda arrived on time the following morning as Roxanne was leading the children down for breakfast. "Miss Linda." Archie and Benny greeted her warmly when she arrived. It was Linda who had babysat them when Roxanne was occupied with work abroad. To the children, Linda, like Madeline, was their godmother. Linda was similarly warm when she greeted, "A long time no see, my darlings." After hugging Archie and Benny, she turned to regard Estella, who was standing behind the boys. Estella was still a little wary of strangers. "You must be Essie." Linda offered her hand politely with a gentle smile. How do you do? I'm Linda, your mommy's assistant, and I'll be here to care for you for the coming few days." Estella gazed at her mother and brothers. When they indicated she should take the hand, she slowly offered hers and shook Linda's. Aware of the little girl's condition, Linda did not urge her to say anything, but instead let go after shaking her hand and straightened up to look at Roxanne. How are things at the Research Institute?" Roxanne asked in concern. As soon as the online discussion simmered down, she rushed to prepare for the medical consultation. Upon recalling that Linda would be coming that day, she planned to ask her in person. Linda smiled. It's almost resolved. The many suppliers who wanted to terminate their contracts had a change of heart and asked to be partners again. What do you think about that?" Roxanne fell silent for several seconds. Then keep the partnerships going. Those suppliers are just opportunistic parasites. We cannot hold them to very high standards. Because her involvement in the online discussion had risked their interests, the suppliers had asked to have their contacts terminated. As they had no private dealings, Roxanne saw no reason to ask them for more faith in the Research Institute. Businessmen are, by nature, opportunistic and self-serving. Linda was not surprised by her answer and promptly agreed to it. I'm not sure how long I'll be away for. I have to trouble you to look after the Research Institute and the children during my absence." Roxanne sounded apologetic. Linda shook her head. This is my job.
Besides, I'm fond of them. They are good children." Archie and Benny nodded in agreement. They were angels in Linda's presence. Roxanne smiled as she caressed the children's heads. Be good, behave yourselves while I'm away, and don't give her any trouble. Do you understand?" Yes, Mommy," the children replied sweetly. After leaving further instructions to Linda and the children, Roxanne glanced at her watch and found it was time to go. I'm leaving. Be good, all of you." Dragging her suitcase behind her, Roxanne turned to leave. At the sight of his mother's departure, Benny could not help feeling anxious on his father's behalf, as the latter still had not shown up. Mommy." In a panicked fit of inspiration, the boy called out to Roxanne. She stopped, confused. What is it?" Benny gazed at his brother and then at his sister, who did not seem eager to speak. After a moment, he said, "You left us with so many words, but do you have any for Mr. Farwell? We can pass the message." His words jolted Roxanne to a realization. Her brows creased lightly. "I have never needed to inform Lucian about impending business trips, but things are different now. Knowing how much he dislikes Jack, I should inform him it is with Jack I'm making this trip. I have gotten so used to leaving whenever work crops up for the past 6 years that I would have forgotten if not for Benny's reminder." Benny watched his mother's expression soften and knew his timely words worked. Although his face glistened with anticipation, he was also silently urging his father to hurry up. Roxanne fell silent for a long while before grabbing her phone to give Lucian a call. Just when she found his number, a horn sounded outside the mansion. Somehow knowing exactly who it was, Roxanne put her phone away and walked to the entrance with her suitcase in tow. She saw Lucian's Bentley at the door. Clad in a smoky gray vest with sleeves rolled up halfway, he emerged from the car and strode toward her. What are you doing here?" Roxanne had a funny feeling as she watched him approach. Lucian frowned at her luggage. What about you? Where are you going?" Roxanne followed his gaze and felt a twinge of guilt about her business trip with Jack. Unwilling to discuss it in the children's presence, she said carefully, "I'm going to Jadeborough for a business trip. I was about to tell you when you came." As soon as the words were out of her mouth, Lucian came over and took her luggage. Roxanne frowned in puzzlement. What are you doing?" He placed her suitcase in the car while she followed suspiciously behind. Benny heaved a secret sigh of relief at the arrival of his father. He made a face at his mother's back before turning to Linda. "We're going to be late, Ms. Linda. We need to get going to the kindergarten." "There's no way we're getting involved." Linda glanced at the time and, with a jump, bid Roxanne farewell before ushering the children into the car and driving off. Suddenly, Roxanne and Lucian were the only ones left at the mansion entrance. She was still uneasy even after he placed her suitcase into his trunk. I'm running late. Let's talk about it when I get there." Meeting her eyes, Lucian grabbed her wrist and dragged her to the passenger seat. Too confused to resist, Roxanne found herself forced into the passenger seat. Then she watched as he got in on the other side. Just as well. I, too, am here to inform you that I'm going to Jadeborough to take care of some business. Since we're heading the same way, let's travel together," Lucian said placidly and started the car without giving her a chance to turn him down. Soon after, Lucian drove out of the mansion. Roxanne, seated in the passenger seat, mulled over Lucian's words. What a coincidence. Lucian never mentioned anything about going to Jadeborough before this. In fact, even Lucian did not know he would be making a trip to Jadeborough. Observing the side of his face, Roxanne could not detect any deception amidst his relaxed concentration behind the wheel. She felt disappointed by her suspicion as soon as the thought occurred to her. Why would Lucian lie? This is not something worth lying about. Are you going to Jadeborough for business? Roxanne couldn't hold back the question any longer as the car picked up speed. Lucian nodded in response to her question, his eyes never leaving the road. There's a problem with the account, and I need to check it out. Suspicion shone in Roxanne's eyes. And you have to go there yourself? She thought Lucian showing up to check the account was a bit much despite her limited business knowledge. Lucian's expression remained unchanged. The person in charge is someone from the Farwell family. Anyone else may be unable to keep them in line, so I must go. It was a reasonable explanation, one that Roxanne reluctantly accepted. She assumed Lucian's job entailed nothing more than sitting in the office and devising strategies, oblivious to the fact that many trivial matters still demanded his time and attention. Oh well, what about you? Why are you going on a business trip after just recovering? Lucian turned and gave her an unreadable look. Guilt snapped her back to the present. She had mentally braced herself to tell him the truth, but words eluded her now that she was sitting beside him. Roxanne hesitated for a long moment before answering evasively. I'm going to help out with an emergency in a nursing home in Jadeboro. She help out? Lucian echoed, puzzled. With whom? Is it set up by the Research Institute? Roxanne averted her eyes sheepishly. No. It's by the Damaris family. Mr. Damaris contacted me yesterday morning asking if I was interested. He said the situation is quite dire, and this time I'll be able to learn medical skills from them, so. She snuck a peek in the rearview mirror at Lucian, fully expecting him to disapprove of her traveling plans with Jack. However, his expression revealed nothing, and he simply nodded. You should do it if the geriatrics need help. Take care of yourself and avoid overworking. That's it? You have nothing else to say? Roxanne couldn't stop the words from coming out of her mouth. Lucian arched a brow in bewilderment. She realized she had said something she shouldn't have, and regret instantly filled her. Yet, words, once spoken, couldn't be retracted. It was a while before Lucian's voice rang out in the small space. There's nothing to say. Saving patients is your job, and I can't choose your work partner. Jack is indeed an exceptional doctor. I'm confident that both of you will keep your relationship strictly professional. She felt an overwhelming sense of dissonance remembering Lucian's prejudice toward Jack and then hearing what he said now. She was so caught up in her astonishment that she didn't notice Lucian's white-knuckled grip on the wheel during the conversation. He clearly didn't mean what he said. Quiet settled in the car again. Lucian had thought Roxanne would offer him an explanation or words of reassurance after he had shown understanding, but she remained silent for a long time. That ticked him off, but he couldn't go back on his words and could only keep his emotions in check. Thankfully, Benny had notified him of this earlier, or he would have flipped his lid thinking about Roxanne and her indulgent demeanor working together with Jack. You could take a break on this trip, too, Lucian continued, not meaning a word he said. The stories circulating online these few days must have affected you. I should have handled it better. I wanted to take you away for an excursion after my trip, but it seems that the medical consultation came at the right time. Roxanne came back to her senses and seemed to remember something. Sorry for troubling you with the comments online. Lucian frowned. I was the one who put you in this situation. I should be the one apologizing to you. Roxanne hesitated before continuing. But it should be me who files the defamation suit. People will misunderstand if you do it for me. They appeared to be a family in the eyes of everyone else, which was the desired effect Lucian wanted. He feigned confusion. You misunderstand what? A hint of resignation flashed in Roxanne's eyes, and she stared at him without answering. He clearly knows what I mean, yet he acts clueless. Lucian knew that she knew, and he was unfazed. Let them misunderstand, then. It works in my favor because everyone knows to stay away from you. He was very satisfied with the idea of announcing to the world what belonged to him, and he had no plans to retract the claim. Roxanne knew she couldn't change his mind and gave up, pretending the conversation didn't happen. The car ride continued in silence until she heard a strange sound, followed by the vehicle lurching. Tires busted. Lucian glanced at the dashboard with furrowed brows, wearing a solemn expression. Buckle up. I remember there's an expressway exit in front. I think we can still make it. Then he checked the roads before merging to the outermost lane. This was Roxanne's first experience, and she checked the rearview mirror from time to time for anyone tailgating them or deviation from a blown tire. Thankfully, Lucian kept the vehicle speed moderate, and they were close to the exit. They could get off the expressway in no time. That was a scare, huh? He gave Roxanne an apologetic look after pulling over to the side of the road. The car was fine when we started the journey. Maybe we drove over something just now. Her heart was still beating a little quicker, and she breathed a sigh of relief when the car came to a stop. It's fine as long as nothing happened. Luckily, we were near the exit. Remembering something, she took out her phone to check the time. Her face creased in frustration. I'm not sure I'll be able to make it to the medical consultation. If it's an emergency, you can wait here while I send someone with another car to us, Lucian answered. Roxanne immediately asked, "Hey, what about you? Don't you have business to attend to in Jadeborough?" Lucian tapped on the steering wheel and said matter-of-factly, "I'll drive the car to the service center. It shouldn't take long." Roxanne glanced around them. They were in a remote area with no visible signs of a rest area or any people around. In fact, there weren't any buildings in sight, let alone any service centers. Don't you have any spare tires in the car?" Roxanne asked hopefully. Lucian furrowed his brows and replied, "I've just used it a while ago and forgot to replace it." Feeling helpless, Roxanne glanced around at the deserted environment they were in. If their car were to break down here, no one would discover their whereabouts. Roxanne felt slightly anxious. "I wouldn't suggest taking that chance," she warned. "We're still a great distance from the service center, and I doubt the tire will hold up for much longer. Why don't you give the service center a call and have them come to us? We can stay put until they arrive." There were two of them, so they could look after each other. Lucian glanced at his watch. "Do you want to stay here with me? Aren't you in a hurry? I think the elderly people at the nursing home need you to be there as soon as possible." A hint of hesitation flashed across Roxanne's eyes when she heard him mention the sick, elderly people. However, she quickly made up her mind. It's fine. Mr. Damaris and the other doctors will be there, so they'll be fine." Lucian nodded and pulled his phone out to call the service center. They waited patiently in the car for the tow truck to show up and tow the vehicle away. Roxanne took out her phone and texted Jack to inform him that she would most probably be late. As they were too far away from the town, the vehicle from the service center only showed up hours later. Lucian greeted the person and led Roxanne to the vehicle ahead so they could be driven to the nearest town. They did not make the journey to the car workshop, which was situated at a considerable distance from the town. Lucian retrieved Roxanne's suitcase and told her to wait aside while he spoke to the mechanic. A while later, he came back to her. What did you guys talk about?" Roxanne was confused. "I told them to examine the whole car and make sure it's working well. A while ago, I noticed there seemed to be a problem with the speedometer." Hearing that, Roxanne didn't think much. She shuddered in fear and commented, "Thank goodness nothing happened to us." After saying that, she couldn't help but frown as something seemed amiss to her. Lucian rarely drives this car. It's practically new. Why are there so many issues? Her thoughts were clearly written on her face. Suddenly, Lucian extended his hand, interrupting Roxanne's thoughts. She found herself frozen, staring at Lucian's hand reaching for her. "You?" For a split second, she thought Lucian wanted to hold her hand and instantly panicked. The next second, Lucian took her suitcase and pushed it along the gravel path with ease. Roxanne heaved a sigh of relief. "Fortunately, I bought a large black suitcase out of convenience. It would look strange now if I had bought a pink one." Lucian led the way, pushing the suitcase, while Roxanne tagged behind quietly. They started making small talk. Suddenly, Roxanne's gaze landed on Lucian's hand hanging loosely by his side. Recalling her misinterpretation, She couldn't help but feel amused.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.